Digital Restrictions Management, or DRM. What is that? DRM are technology measures that restrict what people can do with their computers. DRM is built into the heart of Windows 7, and many Microsoft services push DRM on other users. In some cases, Microsoft has added these restrictions at the behest of Hollywood and the music industry. In other cases, Microsoft DRM goes way beyond these companies' demands, suggesting that Microsoft is using DRM simply to create lock-in. Whether Microsoft is merely a co-conspirator with big media companies or an advocate for DRM in their own right, the result for software users is the same. When you use Windows 7, you hand over control of basic aspects of your computer to the media industry. The monomaniacal fear of big media companies is that people will share digital media with their friends, building a free public library of cultural works. So for media companies to restrict sharing, they need the full cooperation of software makers at the deepest level. Enter Microsoft. In order to completely prevent sharing, media companies needed Microsoft to do two things. First, they had to make sure that any outgoing digital signal is just as locked down as the DRM to music or movie file. Otherwise, you could simply play a video on your computer out to another device like your digital camera and press record. So Windows, when playing a file with DRM, needs to constantly check to make sure any connected device is cooperating with the DRM scheme. This anti-feature is called Protected Media Path. Microsoft introduced it with Vista, and it continues today. Second, media companies needed Microsoft to keep other programs from observing the playback process and intercepting the audio and video in unencrypted form. After all, it's still your computer, and as much as the media companies hate it, you can install and run whatever apps you want. When Vista and Windows 7 closed this quote-unquote loophole by monitoring all applications. Listen to me say that again. Vista and Windows 7 closed this loophole by monitoring all the applications currently running whenever a media file with DRM is playing. If Vista or Windows 7 detects an unapproved application running in the background, your song or video will simply stop playing. In practice, the encryption on most popular DRM schemes like DVD and Blu-ray has been cracked. And DRM-free copies of almost any piece of film or music is available on the internet. But users of Windows 7 and Vista still have code running on their computer at all times that is trying to limit their basic right to share media with each other and their power to build libraries. These restrictions have gone beyond what many would expect. For example, at the request of NBC, Microsoft prevented Windows Media Center users from recording television shows that NBC would rather you didn't. Even though this kind of recording is an included feature of Windows Media Center, they claimed they were just following FCC regulations, though the Second Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that the FCC has no authority to make such regulations. Was they lying? Microsoft even adds DRM in contexts where media companies have largely given up on it. This year, after every major online music store went DRM free, Microsoft launched a DRM encumbered music store for mobile phones. The music service has one particularly charming limitation. Many people switch cell phones every 6 months to a year, but there is no way to transfer songs from one phone to the next. If you switch phones every 6 months, then you lose your music every 6 months. But more importantly, this is a level of DRM that music companies are no longer demanding, indicating that Microsoft has its own aim in promoting DRM lock-in. Because DRM creates artificial incompatibility, it's the perfect tool for tying users of a service to a particular product. When people buy music from a Microsoft service, they cannot use any other music players like the iPod, for example. Even when Microsoft launched its own Zune music player, the Zune did not play tracks with Microsoft quote-unquote plays for sure DRM sold by other music services, including MTV Urge music service built into Windows Media Player. Pressure from big media companies is not the only reason Microsoft pushes DRM lock-in. Lock-in is central to Microsoft's business strategy, and DRM is a great way to pursue it. Microsoft is not the only company guilty of this. Apple, via its iTunes software and its Macintosh, iPod, iPhone, and Apple TV devices, also imposes DRM on users. Adobe and Sony also impose DRM on users. but Microsoft is particularly aggressive at imposing DRM, and the integration of DRM at the deepest levels of Windows 7 is a key reason that makes it different from Apple and reasons not to buy. It's up to you.